December 3rd. I'm here with my friend Dan Borrero. We are real estate investors. Tonight we're talking about real estate market updates and investing tips and strategies that are going to help you set yourself up for a phenomenal end of 2023 as well as get your butt in gear for 2024. Dan Borrero, what's up, bro?
Pleasure to be here with you again, brother.
Yeah, man, it's always good to see you. My birthday's tomorrow, y'all. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Chris Haskins.
Thank you, Dan. It feels good to make it another year, brother.
Always, man. It's always better to be on this side of the dirt. You know, when someone tells me, oh, when they start telling me they got all these problems, I say, well, what's the alternative?
There's only one alternative, Dan.
Yep. So I'd rather be on this side of the dirt with the problems than be below it with none.
That's right, bro. That's right. I keep thinking about what you said. You're gonna be buried with a blank check.
No, yeah, I told you that.
I can
So,
picture you. I can
you know,
picture you laying down. I can see you like I'm walking by a casket and shit. You got to.
so I got cousins of mine. They're like, you never see. I bet you never seen a hearse driving behind rather
A
an
U-Haul.
armed truck, carrying money driving behind a hearse. I said, well, I told my wife to make sure she hires an armored truck. I said, for nothing else but to make me feel good. It sends me off in with the right feeling. I said, and then I tell her, make sure she signs a check and make sure she leaves a blank check inside my inside pocket, So at least it'll make me feel good that I have something of some type of value.
You are crazy, man. So, Dan, it's the third of the month. Tell me, you got rents coming in or people paying late? I mean, what's it? What is
Man,
it?
I gotta tell you, man, that out of all of my doors in Florida, and I probably got more doors in Florida than I do in New York right now. All of them but 3 have not paid, and it's only the 3rd. And today's Sunday, so you can't really count today.
Have not paid.
Have not paid. So I'm doing great. And I would say 90% of my rentals in New York are paid, and all of my rentals in New Jersey are paid with the exception of about 10%. Listen, Chris, we've discussed this, man. I don't have the problems that most conventional landlords have. And the reason I don't have those problems is because of the vetting process, right? If you vet your tenant applicants the right way, you should not be chasing money every month.
Yeah, I don't do it. I don't do it. Dan, I no doubt earlier in your career you chased after people to pay you rent. I can only imagine.
I did because I didn't understand the vetting process. And I did because I didn't understand how how you renovate the property or prepare the property dictates the quality of tenant you get.
That's
Right.
true.
So there's 2 sides to that coin. And once I was able to figure out that right formula, uh, is as well as the vetting process is the primary. That's the biggest. Let's share that with the audience, Chris, because this is something that many people don't talk about.
That's right.
The vetting process and the interview process is actually more important than the process of you finding the house and buying the house.
Man, that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
If you don't understand the vetting process and how to manage your tenants, you're dead in the water. Doesn't matter how well you bought that property, you're dead in the water. Because trust me, tenants will school your ass. They'll school you like this.
I've got a motto that says either they're going to train me or I'm going to train them during our relationship. But the
And
difference about it is we get to choose. We get to
we
choose.
get to choose. We get to choose who's training who. It's funny. I had many. I had met. This is a good story. So I just rented an apartment. It took me 3 months to rent. Not because I didn't have enough applications, but primarily because I didn't like the applications that were coming in. So I agreed to this young couple, and they just took possession yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, Friday. And The only thing they asked me to do was to caulk. They complained that they didn't like the color of the grout around in the bathroom, around the shower. And the reason I use a really dark gray color, it's a charcoal gray.
Always use gray grout, y'all. Y'all learn it from the master right here.
And use a dark color because you never know if the tenant is going to be a pig or not and clean. The dark color does hide a lot of it, and you could always scrape it out and regrout it. So, but white is always going to get look ferocious within a couple of years. Whether sometimes the tenants don't turn on the fan when they're taking hot showers or moist. That steam creates mold and so forth. So, fast forward, I explained to them why we use a dark color. And she asked, well, is it possible for you to caulk around the tub with the white caulking instead of the gray? I said, you know what? Not a problem. I'll have my guy come in, scrape it out, put it in the gray. If that's what's going to make you happy, I'll do it. It's not a big deal.
Wow. Well, nice, Dan.
I get a phone call yesterday. First a text, and immediately after a phone call, telling me how dissatisfied they are that I did not, and that I didn't put in the white grout.
I thought you said you did.
No, I put in the white caulk, which is what we agreed on, around the tub. So you just scrape out the old caulk around the tub, and you put in the white caulk. That's what is it, like a 20-minute job, right? So I said, hold on a second. That's not what we agreed on. And they were getting a little annoyed. And I said, okay, let's do this, because I'm not interested in starting a relationship this way. Are you there now? He says, yeah. If you give me 45 minutes, I'm going to stop at the bank, pick up a bank check, and return your money. I'm going to give you back your rent and your security deposit. Because I'm not arguing with you over the color of the grout. That's not happening. Well, no. We don't want to do that. I says, no, you don't understand. You don't want to do that, but I do. Because I'm not interested in arguing over color grout. Needless to say, they begged me to let them stay in the apartment.
Wow.
Right?
What is
I'm not going to tolerate that.
They think you're going to get down on your knees and kiss their butt.
No, they don't know who Dan Borrero is.
I don't even think. Let's stay here, Dan. People will push you. You know what? This is a prime example of them trying to train you, because they saw.
That's what they were trying to do. Train me.
They saw how you quickly did that one. Not grout. What was it? Caulk line.
Right.
And now they're trying to push you. Dan, if you would have did that one next thing, man, you would have been stepping, fetching for the next.
Oh, no. So this is one of the ways you have to train tenants. The primary way you train a tenant, though, is in the beginning. There's a 3-step process.
Okay.
The application process, the interview process is where you, especially in the interview, is where you set the expectations from the beginning. And then the last one, and the most important, is the lease. The lease. You've seen my lease, Chris. You used my lease. My lease is 9 pages long. It ain't no joke.
All right, let's get to some questions. Listen, I don't know if y'all can come on live here or not. Dan, do you see a way people can come on at all?
Oh, you're at the wrong. You tell me how to do it on Instagram. I could tell you like this. On YouTube, you're the man. I couldn't tell you.
All right, y'all. So thank you for the happy birthday wishes. Thank y'all. I'm 48. Dominic is getting into real estate in a smaller town. A good idea. $120,000. 120,000 people or less. Dan.
As long as the numbers make sense and there's a demand for it, yes, no problem.
Yeah, I don't know too much about rural. 120 isn't rural though. Is that rural? I guess you have
that's a decent size. That's a very decent sized town. That's not a small town with 120,000 people.
Yeah, I have a huge area. We only have 800,000. I think 120 that's gonna be pretty good.
Listen, I go on live every Thursday with Gerald Peters. He invests all his money into single family homes, and as far as his real estate side investing, and I don't think he's got a lot of people in his town either. He does exceptionally well. So as long as there's a demand there, why not?
Yeah. Looks like High Tech Hap is going through with an eviction. Welcome to the club, my brother or sister. I don't know.
Well,
I'm glad
the only thing I'm going to just say is when you're going through the eviction, remember something. And I had to always, I still, till this day, I still remind myself of this. The tenant's job when they're in court, their attorney is going to make you look like you're irresponsive, you're not emotionally connected, don't have a care in the world about fixing the property. They're making you look like a slum landlord. Your attorney is trying to make the tenant appear as if they're nothing but trouble, they're deadbeats, they're causing havoc with other tenants in the property, right? Or the neighbors. Whoever has the best supporting documents to tell their story is who normally wins,
the story. The judge wants the story, man.
right?
They
With
want,
proof, with documented proof.
what kind of
So
document?
you have to document everything.
What kind of docs do they need other than the pay or quit? And
Well, a lot of times, it's funny, guys. I'll share something that I'm actually I was writing something today, and I was thinking about this situation. I always remember it, and this is in New York. This is like a classic move, but I was inexperienced and I didn't know any better. And this is a classic, like textbook move for tenants, right? For professional tenants. Tenant calls me up, and back then I was that landlord, do-it-yourself landlord, because I was going to go out there, save as much money as I can, do the job right, right? So the tenant calls me up, and we were in court already for 6 months on an eviction. So she calls me up and she says, she's got a leak underneath the sink. So of course I'm like, shit, I got to go into this bitch's house, blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking to myself, right? I'm cursing her out in my mind. I said, well, let me just eat it and go in there and fix what the problem is, because then she's going to tell the judge I ain't even fixing the property, right? So I go, and back then we used to have to take, the portable cameras, because we didn't have cell phones with cameras, right? Those cheap cameras you could buy for like $6, the
for
Kodak
what?
cap, the disposable camera. Remember those? And then you take them to the film developing place. You get the film done, develop the
Yeah.
film. So I would take one of those with me, right? And so I get there and knocking on the door for about 5 minutes. Eventually, she says from the other side of the door, "Well, I'm getting dressed. You got to give me 5, 10 more minutes." I'm like, "This bitch." I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm so mad, right? And in the interim, another tenant's coming up the stairs, sees me, and her lease was coming up for renewal. She wanted to stay. Hey, Dan, I know you're having problems with this lady, but I'm not like her. Will you renew my lease? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And we're talking pleasantly for about 10 minutes. So now she continues to go upstairs, and I'm like, man, this woman still hasn't opened the door. I'm like, I'm done. So I turn around to walk down the stairs. And as I'm walking down the stairs, there's two cops coming up the stairs. And as soon as they see me, they put their hands on their gun, very defensive. And they point at me and they tell me, put down the bag and keep your hands where we can see them. And I comply immediately. I put down the bag, keeping my hands here. I identify myself as the owner, you know. Well, let me see ID. I said, I'm not moving my hands. You grab it out of my pocket, but I'm not moving my hands. So fast forward, she then comes out and she's dressed in a robe and she looks all disheveled. And she says, he was just banging on my door. I was scared. I thought I was going to have to jump out the window the way he was banging on the door. He's telling me I got to get out or he's going to kill me. He's going to hit me with a hammer. This is what she's telling the cops.
Wow.
I'm like, that didn't happen. I'm here with my tool bag to fix something that she called me on. Now, back then, we didn't have cell phones where we could see timestamps and dates and phone numbers and caller IDs,
Wow.
right? She called me in my office.
Wow.
So thank God the lady upstairs came down and told the cops. I know, I was just talking to her for the last 10, 15 minutes. I didn't see any of that.
Holy cow.
So now when we go to court, there's a police report. I have my police report. She's got hers. And she was using that against me, telling the judge, look, judge, he's trying to circumvent the legal process and bully me into getting out in the middle of the day on a weekend. So what I'm saying, guys, is
Wow.
when you're in an eviction process, the most important thing is do not communicate directly ever to the tenant. If you have something to be fixed, don't go do it yourself. Pay somebody to go do it.
Well, now we got okay. Then now we got text messages and email, right?
Yes, much different, but regardless, if you're in that apartment talking to her or him or outside the building, they're going to take your conversation and misconstrue it to the judge. But if you keep everything in writing, there's no arguing about what you said or didn't say,
That's true.
or the tonality of what you said.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Everything's got to be in writing.
So
No more one-to-one personal conversations, whether phone or in person. Absolutely not.
No more talking. I gotta tell my clients that you're doing too much talking, man. Stop talking. What is there to talk about, dog? Is something broke? Did you pay? How are you staying? I mean, really, Dan? What let me ask you? What is there else to talk about? You like the
There is
neighborhood?
nothing to talk about. I don't want. If I'm talking to a tenant, I'm pissed. I'm upset because it's one or two. And most of the time it's my fault if I have to talk to a tenant. If I'm talking to a tenant, it's because I didn't prepare that apartment properly. If that faucet is leaking, I didn't put in the right faucet. If the window it has air, it has air coming through it and it's not insulated properly, that's not the tenant's fault. That's my fault.
Yeah, no doubt. Good one.
So most of the time when I'm talking to a tenant, it's not the tenant's fault. It's my fault. So I do everything possible before that tenant gets into that apartment to make sure it's buttoned up really nice and tight so that I don't have to talk to the tenant. I don't want to give the tenant a reason to call me.
I like that. Hey, we got BG. So many questions here. Are Jose? Oh, shoot. High tech. She's gonna be a problem. Sandy Grout. Get your questions in, y'all. Get your questions in. Jose has a foreclosure homes worth buying.
All day long as the numbers make sense.
Numbers got to work, and you got to know what the hell you're doing. We got Dan and I talked about Mastermind last week about buying foreclosures. We can't get into it tonight, all of it, but you got to know what you're doing. You know, especially if you're buying at the auction at the steps. BG, can you help me get some clarity? If I'm selling a property, contract for deed, considering title would still be in my name, that's right. Would I still retain tax benefits? Not necessarily. Not on my side. We don't do that. We let the tenant take it off. But don't forget, your income is taxed. Like Dan said, well, we didn't say it here. Income is taxed differently. You got to remember, man, this country is built for the rich people. It's built for the landowners, the people that own stuff. So your income's taxed lower, so that depreciation, I mean, it's going to offset that anyway. Would you say, Dan?
Absolutely, because now it's interest earned, which is taxed at a much lesser rate. Expect now if you were in New York, California, Portland, Connecticut, Boston, Massachusetts, that's a major difference. If you could get your tax rate down on interest earned because tax is such a much lesser rate. Because here in New York, um, between New York City and New York State taxes, it's another killer.
What?
That's one of the primary reasons I'm actually thinking of leaving now the city of New York as far as my residency is to save money on taxes at this point.
Yeah, man.
As much as I don't want to, because I love living here, because I love the diversity and everything the diversity brings with it, culturally, with the food and just different personalities, different outlooks in life, different cultures that you get to experience. But at what point, as I get older, I have to start thinking more about my financial being because at the end, within 10 years, I'm not going to be working the way I work now. I'm not going to be developing the income I develop now because I want to enjoy my life, right? So that's one of the things. I remember my accountant died when he was 94 years old,
Man.
and he was my accountant for over 30 years, and we were really good friends. We became friends even after he retired. And he's telling me, he says, Dan, he says, life changes every 10 years, whether you like it or not, and it's up to you to either adjust to it or get angry about it. But
Wow.
you got to adjust to it, otherwise you'll be angry all your rest of your life.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
deep.
It's real deep. He said, life will change every 10 years, whether you like it or not, based on illness. It could be your illness. It could be your spouse's illness. It could be your kid's illness. It could be because of taxes. It could be for multiple reasons, right? and you need to pivot and adjust and adapt to it. Otherwise, you'll be miserable.
Then y'all give us a thumbs up for that right there. And I see we got 50-something people on here. I don't see as many. Smash that like button, y'all, for optimization purposes. We need to get the word out for the power of real estate investing. Hit that thumbs up down there, y'all. Dan, that's funny you mentioned that. As I'm turning 48 tomorrow, I'm looking at my life, like with vacancies and stuff. I used to look at vacancies such as an emergency, right? I'm like, I got to get somebody in this house right now, today. I need this house full. Now I got houses sitting for 3 months. I don't, and this is not to say I'm there or here. I don't even worry about it. I'm like, it's sitting. All right, I got to wait for the right person.
Explain to the audience why you rather have an empty house.
Just listening to you is a lot, and understanding that a bad tenant is worse than an empty property. It took me a long time to get that day, and still I have to fight myself a little bit now because I'm thinking about 2,000 a month. You know, I'm missing. Like I said, I got 3 vacancies now. I'm missing $5 grand. I'm like, damn, that's in 3 months. That's 15,000. You know, it's like it kind of messes with me, but I know deep in my heart, I know it's better to have an empty property than having a bad tenant.
It is. Look, and especially in certain states versus others. So New York, it could take you almost 2 years now to get rid of a bad tenant. In Florida, it'd take me like 3 months. So I could actually live with 3 months because I've been trained to live with longer in New York. Um, so, but I will. That apartment I just told you about, it was 3 months with no rent at $3,300 a month. That's
Good.
$9,900, guys.
Hold up, you still got taxes too, though. What are your taxes on something like that?
Actually, not bad because the taxes go up only a certain percent. They can't go up more than a certain percent, even if the property gets assessed at a higher value. So, and since I bought that particular building, it was back in 1992. That building's worth about 2.5 million right now, and I would say, but my tax base originally was on 225,000. So it's probably hovering at around $8,000 a year, which isn't bad at all.
Hold on, they're not taxing it on 2 million.
They can't because in the city of New York, you could only go up 6%, up to 6% every 3 years
What?
of the assessed value of the original assessed value. So let's suppose they went up 6% this year in 2024, 2025 and 26. I can't get an increase because the max is 6% over
Wow.
3 years, over 36 months.
Y'all got some crazy politics going on up there.
However, now if I sold that house for 2.5 million, the new owner within 5 years will be paying the assessed value of 2.5 million. So they'll be paying about 30,000, 30 to 35,000.
Oh,
Unless that new owner bought my corporation and not the building.
oh, you can keep it on, keep it going.
Exactly.
You didn't transfer the title.
Precisely. He bought the company. He didn't buy the right now. The attorney, his attorney or her attorney is going to say, you can't do that. And they're going to say, why? He says, because if there's any liabilities attached to that company that may come up from 5 or 10 years ago, you're responsible for it.
Well, you could always change ownership. Can't you, being the same owner of different LLCs, change the ownership of the LLC, but you're still the owner of the LLC, so the city would not change
They
the tax?
can't, they can, but if there's any the attorney's going to say, don't, they're going to, his or her attorney, the buyer's attorney is going to say, you shouldn't do that because any liability that comes up from 5, 10, 12 years ago is attached to that property, and and the company owns that property. Now it becomes your problem.
But I'm asking, like, say January 1st, right? You go from Dan LLC to Borrero LLC is the new owner.
If
But
I
you're
did that, now I'm going to be taxed on the capital gains because I got to show the difference in price
Well,
because
you
it's
just
a
did
new
it.
one.
I'm saying you just sold it to yourself.
Doesn't matter.
You
It's
did.
still a pact.
Okay, so we're talking about transferring deed, not necessarily changing, because you're in essence you're still the same owner owns it. You just changed title.
Now you got to pay the capital gains on it.
Hold on, let me ask you this.
That's my understanding, guys. I am not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I'm just telling you what I've learned as a result of asking these same questions to my accountant and my attorney.
Here's the thing. Let me. I know I'm not putting you on the spot. I know both of us are not attorneys. I am under the premise. If say you're doing estate planning, I thought the city has to honor estate planning. If you put it,
Estate planning is a different subject matter.
well, I'm telling you, forget what estate planning is. You're still taking it out of and you're changing owners on title.
No, you're not, because I've actually just done this. So my deed, what's going to happen is the deed stays under the corporate name.
It could or it may not.
No,
It
it
may.
does. In my case, it stood under the corporate name. However, my shares of that corporation, instead of Dan Borrero owning 50% of the shares, Dan Borrero Family Trust now owns 50% of the shares. But as far as the city's concerned, the deed is still in the name of the company.
So you're not. You damn. Yeah, we had to dig deep on that one. I would wonder. Well, why can't you
I
change it?
just literally went through that. I just went through that for some estate planning my wife and I did.
All right, so I'll leave it alone. I'm still thinking. Let me ask you real quick. We'll move on. What if you just want to change? You own AB. You own company A and company B. You just want to change title, do a gift deed from company A to company B. You still own both of them. You're still the owner.
It doesn't matter. There's a tax because there's two different tax ID numbers and two different identities.
I don't like that.
Yeah, neither do I. I thought about that. I tried doing that too.
Because then I'm like, people, in my opinion, people don't mind buying new LLCs because it's the liability is so low. I mean, it may not even have a bank account.
No, well, this LLC has got to be. Remember, it's 1992,
That's
so
my yeah. Oh.
it's 30 years old. 32 years old. It's going to be like. I mean,
I don't blame them.
if it were me, I'd buy it for me because I know how I run my business. But the opposing attorney doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. They don't know what I've done, and of course they're going to advise that buyer not to do it that way.
No doubt. Well, that's the same thing that we do with trust. I mean, when I own a house, I'll sell the trust. Give me a payment. You give me the money. You go and you keep the trust. And the city don't even know it. They don't
Yeah.
even know what I do.
The reality is that the assets within the trust, and you're selling the trust, and the assets happen to be in the trust.
Yep. All right, so let's move on. We got good questions. Darling wants to know: have you ever bought a property at a condo auction? I don't know what that is.
Well, not a condo auction at the courthouse steps. I have, or foreclosure auctions online. Yeah, I have.
Uh,
But I've only bought condos in communities that I already own condos in communities that I already understand how the HOA works, the personality of the HOA manager, that, where I know for a fact that I have the right to rent it, because many condominiums and co-op documents don't allow you to do that, or you have to go through them to get approved, and it could take a month to approve it. You need, when it
yep.
comes to HOAs, you better
Do research.
really do a lot of research and have a clear understanding on how much power those HOA boards have.
2 years ago during the middle of the pandemic, I bought a house to fix and flip it, and at the end, it was so nice we kept it for short term. And we were doing 10,000 a month, and then I got a letter from the HOA. The HOA, they have power to really enforce that stuff too, man.
They do.
Do you cash out high tech? Do you cash out owner finance deal under 6 months? Dan, would you do that if you're selling?
Depends on the cost of the money. Depends if I have something else to do with it. There's a lot of variables. Depends if I actually need it or don't need it. Cashing out is not always the best thing. Now, I've done the burst strategy since 1989. I didn't even know that. I When someone asked me about 3 years ago about the burst strategy, I had to say to them, "What is that?" And when they explained it to me, because they were like, "It's the new thing that all the rich people are using," and I'm like, "All right, well, tell me what's the new thing that all the rich people are using." So they explained it to me. I'm like, "That ain't new. That's been happening. I did that back in 1990, and that was just refinancing." I mean, look, the reality is I've done it, but I've done it to take my original investment out. So let's suppose that, guys, if the property asset value after renovations is 100,000 and you have 60,000 into it, right? And the bank comes to me and says, "All right, we'll give you 80,000." I said, "I don't want 80,000. I just want my original 60. That's it."
They try to give it. They try to make you take it.
They're trying to make you take it, right? But what happens is, let's say it's three doors. At 60% of loan value, all I need is one door to pay the mortgage and the insurance and everything. The other two doors are my cash flow. And then I leave one door in there for my reserves for capital improvements on the property over the years. And then I use cash flow, the other door, the third door. And now I don't spend that money. I put that into a separate account that allows me to accumulate that cash to get another down payment to go buy another property. But with the original 60,000 that I took out, which was my original money, I just went and bought another property already anyway.
Hmm.
And that's how you scale.
There you go. Don't get in trouble getting refinancing though, y'all. You gotta know what you're doing, boy.
And by the way, that burst strategy doesn't work if you didn't buy the house at the right number. Because if you didn't buy that property at the right number, you're never going to be able to, it'll never appraise out for you to pull out your original investment.
Well, not only
So,
that, I bought it based on Airbnb income.
oh, tell them why that's a disaster.
I thought I could do short-term rental, Dad. You tell me. I mean, I want to make. I bought it because I thought Airbnb would pay me 3,000 to 4,000 a month.
And they were until they weren't because the laws changed or the HOA decided they don't want that anymore, right? They elected to put a new bylaw in there to stop that from happening.
Round Up Family, give Dan Borrero, USA Land Ventures a follow and subscribe on YouTube. Give me a subscribe and a like. I'm making light of things because Dan and I have both been burned tremendously, and I enjoy laughing about it because if you don't, it will make you pissed at life. It will
Well,
make
let's share one more thing with them. Guys, we've made a lot of mistakes, Chris Haskins and I, but we've made hundreds of thousands of dollars from our mistakes.
that's true.
Tell them how, Chris.
You got to learn the lesson. You got to learn the lesson for the next time.
Every time a con artist gets over on you, a con artist contractor, he just made it more difficult for every other contractor who came, including even if they're innocent and had no intention of getting over on you, right? Every time a tenant schools you, there's not gonna ever be another tenant to school you in that format. They may school you, you may get another tenant schooling you, but not using the same technique.
There you go. 7, real quick, Dan, then we gotta go. Do you have units where you do rent? Do you rent rooms out?
I've never done that.
I don't do it either, man. I had a friend, they claimed this clock. You know they can get together and go to the court and all that.
You're done. Yeah,
T-
it's not what I do. I know people that do and do extremely well with it.
too.
Um, it's just not my personality, not my cup of tea, and
Me
I'm not
neither.
interested in that. And a lot of times I see the people who are doing it, they also become somewhat of a social worker
The stress, Dan.
and a referee because then if the people are fighting in there, yeah, I'm not interested in that.
I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. Tiana, tip for strong start: when to buy, hold back, and invest beyond W-2 income. Wow, that's a long one.
That's a question you would come on live and ask us because we would have to ask you a lot of questions.
Yeah, this is where you have to pay for mentorship. Now, Dan has both of us. These are questions. Listen, spend a few dollars to talk to somebody that's been doing this shit for 20 years. Dan doing it for 30. We have consultations. This is exactly why we do it because we know. Let me for me before I got started, and even now, who do I call? Who the hell do like a decision like with a tenant? I got a problem. I can call Dan Borrero. So invest in opening up your network of people that you can pick the phone up with because the people at your job ain't gonna be able to help you. They're just
No,
not. No
They're not going
disrespect.
to be able to, most of the time, family and friends can't help you because they're not there. But the crazy part is they all seem to have an opinion, right? I remember once, this happened a few years back. I was selling a property to a woman. She signed the contract, sent in her escrow. This was a property in Winter Springs, Florida. Property was $180,000. And it was a full renovation. I put new roof, new water main, new sewer line, new windows, new kitchen, new bathrooms, new flooring, new doors, new AC system. New driveway, all cement, new driveway with 4.5 inches of cement. It was a
Wow.
beautiful job, right? All new landscaping, 180,000. She calls me up and listen, I changed my mind. I was talking to my sister. She said this, she said that. And I was like, just out of curiosity, her name was Lydia. I says, does your sister own a house? She says, no. I says, okay.
She's
I
still
says,
renting.
right. I says, so is she older than you? She says, yes. I said, how old? I think she said 2 or 3 years older. Well, my sister and her husband said. I said, okay, no problem. I got no problems returning your money. Let's kill the deal because I actually got 3 backup offers. Not a problem. So I immediately sent the signed cancellation to her broker. The broker then sends me back the next morning, like at 7 in the morning, sent it over, executed, sent it to the title company. And now I call the next person online, and says, it's available, but you got until 11 o'clock this morning to decide if you want to make my next call to the next realtor. And of course they said yes. Fast forward 3 years later, she calls me up and she says,
Lydia.
yeah, I really regret not buying that house. I see now that you were advising me the right way. Um, and when I tell people
Wow.
the story, they can't believe you gave me back all my money. You didn't try to hold it. It was like $20,000. So I said, I don't want to do business with people that are, uncertain because you're gonna have
Bad news.
buyer's remorse. That's not me. I don't need to do that.
Bad news.
So she said, do you have anything in that price range? I says, Lydia, I said, I just sold the house around the corner, same exact house, with half the renovations I did to yours for 3.25,
Well, how much was hers?
180,
180?
180.
Oh my God.
I said, you're not going to find that deal, whether it's me or anyone else. You're not going to find that deal. I said, you may find something for 180, but it's going to be a total gut at this point. You're going to have to put everything brand new.
What year was that, Dan?
This just happened about 2 years ago. So
Oh, this
then
is
she
recent.
says, yeah. So then she says, I said, well, by the way, did your sister ever buy a house? She said, yeah. I said, where? She said, about a mile away from that house. I said, what she
What?
paid? She said, oh, she paid 210. I said, so your sister told you my deal at 180 was a bad deal, but she paid 210 a mile away.
That
So my
sounds
point, my point to everyone here is
wow, dude.
don't take advice from somebody that never bought a house.
I'm sad for that lady, man.
Would you go to a podiatrist for advice on heart surgery, or are you going to go to a cardiologist on heart surgery?
You know, I
Everybody's got an opinion, and all your friends are going to have an opinion. All your family's going to have an opinion. The question is, are they in a position to give you an opinion with experience backing it up?
wow, Dan. You know what's weird, man, Dan? I find the more I try to help some people get into a house, like owner occupied, the more they think I'm trying to do something funky. Like
Right.
my heart is really like, and I'm trying to tell them, look, I got enough houses. I don't need to do this. I mean, I'm letting them know that I'm literally doing this to help, and it's almost like they second guess our motives. You trying to help the lady?
I got to be honest with you. I'm not going to be self-centered and say I was trying to help her.
Okay, you
I don't go out of my way to help, especially strangers. But I do go out of my way to be very transparent.
okay?
And I
All right.
do go out of my way to do business the right way. the reality is this, and
You
Kris,
didn't
I
have to go to
know you're
Paris,
going to
though.
agree with me. You're going to agree with me 100% when I say this. My brand, your brand, is transparency.
Oh, yeah, man.
We are hassle-free when it comes to buying from us and selling to us. That is our brand,
Okay.
right? So when she asked me for that security deposit, or rather escrow deposit back, did I have to give her that? No. She had already actually did an inspection and in the inspection report, there were no issues. There were 2 issues that I said I would take care of. So she couldn't even use the inspection report to get out of it.
Mm.
And she had her mortgage was approved.
Wow.
So I did not have to return her escrow. But
Mm.
$20,000 was not going to make me a wealthy man.
Yeah.
$20,000 was going to consume too much of my time fighting between her realtor, her attorney, and the title agent.
That's deep, man.
So
That is,
give them back their money. Move on. I sold the house 30 days later for a cash deal. Actually, for about $5,000 more.
you know what's weird, Dan? I bump into people over time, and when I try to sell them a house or try to do a deal, whatever, and then they don't buy. 100% of them always say, "You know what? I should have bought that house." How
There's
about
somebody here. There's a Deborah Jackson. You're right, Dan. If I had listened to my sister, I would have missed out on purchasing a home for 169,000 at 2.5% APR, which is now worth 373K. I'm so glad when everyone validates what I'm saying. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.
buy? Buy. All right. Darren, we got a million questions down here, Dan. I don't even know where to start. We gotta get
Let's
out of
just take one because it's late already, man.
here. Yeah, I'm sleepy. I gotta get this kid out of the bed. Uh, Kathy Fields. I usually invest in real estate Long Island. Oh, you got big houses up there. During the pandemic, I started investing in tax deeds. Okay, South Florida. I'm sorry, that wasn't a question.
Another
Membership.
side of the business that's really good. I bought tax deeds. I shouldn't say that. I had an attorney that used to do it for me. He has since passed away, and ever since he's passed away, I don't do it anymore. I used to actually pay him to do everything from beginning to end. Uh, so, and since he's passed, I haven't found anybody else to do it, and I have no intention of learning how to do it.
Yeah.
But it's a good business. I've made a lot of money with it.
Business services is going to the auction tomorrow. Good. Get out there. Go to the auction, man. Make your offer, brother. Ed. Fix and stop listening to your family. They don't want you to succeed. That is terrible. Might be though. All right. Now to no more questions. Dan, final thoughts for this week. What are you going to give us as we move into the final month of the year? And don't forget,
Start
we want to
developing,
training too.
and I could tell everybody what I'm doing. I hate New Year's resolutions. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. Um, it's like Kris saying, right now is the
Do
point.
it now. Like,
So I've already set my goals for next year. Over the next month, actually, for the last 2.5 weeks, plus whatever's left of December, I'm now developing the plan to execute to achieve those goals.
now.
Right. So yes, I'm not waiting until January 1st.
Now.
So right.
Right
So
now.
the point is, we all have goals. Like when people tell me, "Well, I want to be a millionaire," I said, "Good. Well, I'm going to be a millionaire." I said, "That's great. What, that's your goal?" "Yeah, that's my goal." "All right. What's your plan? How are you going to get there?
Boom, boom,
What's
boom.
the strategy?"
It's hard. Dan, I don't want to minimize the difficulty it's going to take to accomplish that, Dan. I think, we throw this thing around a lot. Not us, but our society, our culture throws around, millionaire status. It's thrown around a lot. I think I just want to make sure that we stress that this is not the overnight thing.
So the reality is this. Um, I've been in the business. I've been self-employed since 1985.
Dang.
Um, And what I've realized over the courses of the year is that a half-made plan is essentially a plan that you're just preparing to fail. If you don't prepare, uh, what's the word that the army uses? Uh, Essentially, if you're not preparing, then you're preparing to fail. Okay,
Or if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail.
right? Fail to plan, and you plan, and what you're doing is planning to fail. So, and creating a plan, an effective plan, a plan that'll actually work, it's not something you could do overnight.
It takes some thought power, man. You know what? I blame our school systems not teaching us to go and do this stuff. And not that I'm passing blame, but I'm saying, Dan, I didn't even know how to do this shit till I was like 40, dog. I'm just like, how do we
I,
even?
I got to tell you the truth, man. The internet is one of the things that I, a lot of what I've achieved in the last 15 years, 10 to 15 years, is the result of how much easier the information is at our fingertips
Wow,
as a result of the internet.
that's
If I
true.
had the internet back in 1985, Chris, I don't know where I would be, but I could tell you I wouldn't be here, man.
Yeah, I'd be. Can you imagine, yo?
Yeah, I mean, the internet makes it so easy to succeed.
Hmm.
What's not easy is the work you gotta impose. You have to put into it.
No
So
doubt.
I could be in a room, Chris. I was actually in a room a few weeks ago. Somebody asked me to speak for a few minutes, and somebody asked me, "This is what's the secret?" And I says, "I could tell you what the secret is because it's really not a secret. It's all over the internet." I says, "Problem is, I could tell you how to do this." I says, "We're lucky if one of you in this room will actually do it. You
Man,
got to get your ass out of bed and work.
that's the hard part.
You got to work. You got to implement it. If you don't implement it, don't matter how much you learn, it's never going to work."
Wow, that's deep. That's deep, Dan.
But isn't
But
it the truth, Chris? How many people have you spoken to, given so much time to, and they do absolutely nothing with it?
well, I will say life has a funny and funky way of to have the right time for some things. Right? For like from right now, this is my time, right? So I've been digging in the dirt since 2004. No one cared about anything I was doing up until now. So I mean, timing is a lot to do with it. You don't think?
It is, but the reality is still personality. So I remember when I bought my first house in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, for 72,000 from Greenpoint Savings Bank. And at the time, I wasn't married, and I wanted to get married, but I told my girlfriend, who's now my wife, like, I'm not getting married until I have some financial success. I need to do this for me, not for you, for me. And I can't make you happy unless I'm happy. So if you can't wait, you can't handle it. You might as well step off. Let me know.
Oh,
Right?
the ladies
And
want
I wasn't trying to be a schmuck about it. I truly believe that be, being married to me is not easy. Being married to any entrepreneur is not easy because
mm-mm.
we're beasts all in our own zone. I mean, to marry an entrepreneur, you got to be crazy because we're nuts. Would you not say, Chris?
Yeah, man, it's hard. I know it's hard. It's
It's
go 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 go.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Well,
So
I'm in therapy.
yeah, guys, it's not easy being married to an entrepreneur. And I give spouses all the kudos to being married to an entrepreneur. So the point is, I remember family members, including on my wife's side, like, "Oh, you crazy? Oh, didn't you say you wanted to marry my sister? Didn't you?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "But this is gonna work." Now those very same people that told me not to do it, some of them don't even own their own home. Can't afford to buy their own home.
It's weird how life has a funny way of coming around. But Dan, I know we gotta go. 30 seconds. I want to leave my roundup family with this because I got mad love for y'all. As we move into this artificial intelligence thing, I don't want to leave this conversation without talking about that. I don't want us, and I consider Dan and myself, we're on the OG side, right? I'd never forget coming in real estate, having paper comps, right? There was no internet to to get comparables. You had a book. You had to get
Yeah,
the
or either that, you have to print them out, get a realtor to give you comps and print them out, and you have to. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
So I'm just saying, a lot of us are nervous about AI, and I just want to make sure that I'm gonna kind of point my message in the direction starting in the new year for artificial intelligence. And I know a lot of people that follow me and know me aren't even internet savvy, so much less try to get them fools on AI, right? So let's take a deep breath from the diaphragm about artificial intelligence, and including you, Dan, because I know, no disrespect to you, I know even when we met, you're like, it's not even on your radar. So, and you're a real estate guy, you like to touch stuff, and I understand that. And I feel like one of my duties is to bridge the digital world with the real estate world. So that's kind of where I live. But I want to say this, and I want to get your take on it. We have to learn how to fit into communicating with this artificial intelligence first before we get scared. But the main thing, how do we ask it questions, y'all? Because right now we can go to YouTube and Google to ask questions. I think the older generation, they ask me questions. I'm like, all the shit's on Google. It's right there.
yeah.
So
Essentially, it's all about prompting, right? And
prompting. I didn't want to.
yeah,
I didn't want to go that high, but yeah, I'm prompting is the word. Prompt.
if you go onto YouTube, I actually find myself going on YouTube to figure out the specific prompts I need to ask for certain things to get the best results. But again, take the
Prompting.
time out, go onto YouTube, ask the question, watch the video, and then implement. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Listen, guys, if I could do this,
yeah.
anybody could do this.
Me too. I'm not even that sharp. You know what
I'm
though,
like,
Dan?
I'm the least. I was a technology adverse person, but like my accountant said, if you every 10 years something's going to happen to change your business or your life. If you don't adjust, you don't pivot, you get left behind.
You're gonna lift it. AI is definitely gonna. I'm telling y'all, man. I have seen some stuff. I don't want to get into it, but Dan, that's so funny you say that. We are not like the sharpest guys in the box, right? But we work hard as shit. Like, I mean, I know I can work. I have worked 15-hour days for 8 years before I even came up to breathe. So the harder you work, things get easier. But don't be scared of AI, y'all. Learn how to talk to it. Learn how to prompt, ask it questions, and get to know it a little bit, okay? Before you think it's gonna take your job
But
and
the
all.
reality is, whether you like it or not, it's here.
It
Whether
don't
you like it or not, it's going to expand at light speed. You know,
matter.
whether you like it or not, when you go to in 5 years, when you go to McDonald's, there ain't going to be a person behind a counter. It's going
I
to be all AI.
Yeah, I go to Taco Bell, right? I get veggie burritos and stuff. That's where I get my veggies. I haven't spoke to a person, Dan, in at least a year and a half. They don't even have people working. There are no cash registers at Taco Bell. If you ever go in,
Yeah, you go to the drive-through, and you know what the crazy part is? It'll be more efficient. You're going to get what you actually ordered. You know, I always remember. You remember that movie Lethal Weapon
yeah.
when Dan?
What? They got four of them.
Well, it was the first one where Joe Pesci, he was like the short little thief guy. He's sitting in the back, and they go through the drive-through, and he's like, "Don't go through the drive-through. They always fuck you through the drive-through. They
Oh
always
yeah,
F you through the drive-through." And then, of course, they go through the drive-through, and then he gets his order, and it's the wrong order. And he's like, "I told you they always F you through the drive-through. Don't go through the drive-through." Right?
I remember that. Joe,
So, you're gonna go to the drive-through, and they're not gonna screw up your order if it's AI. All right. But AI also brings more opportunities. But if you don't retrain yourself, people say it's gonna take people's jobs. I said, okay, then you have to retrain yourself.
that's
Those
right.
AI machines are gonna need people to assemble them. They're going
Work,
to need people to
sir.
fix them. They're going to
Yeah,
need people to maintain them. They're
that's
going to
right.
need people to transport them. They're going to need, you could fit somewhere,
There you
but you're
go.
going to have to adjust and pivot.
Got it. All right. Business services. I got an anointing from God. Wow, I appreciate that, man. That is so cool. I appreciate that. Listen, follow Dan Borrero. What is it? USA Land Ventures. On
USA Land Ventures,
that's YouTube.
YouTube, and of course you go to Instagram, Facebook, either Daniel Borrero Jr. or Daniel Borrero Jr. at Gmail. Rather Daniel Borrero DanielBorreroJR.com that you'll see. Or if you go to my YouTube channel, you could actually go to my bio and click on everything.
Roundup family, much love to you. Thank you for your birthday, which is for tomorrow. Thank you, Dan and Allah. Dan,
Happy birthday, my man, Chris.
all right, when we talk
How
to you
old are you going to be now?
48, man. I'm proud of it, brother. I'm proud of it.
48. So you're 12 years younger than I am, man. I would say you're catching up. The problem is every time you having a birthday, then I get a birthday. That screws up. That screws everything up, man.
You know what though, Dan? Without the internet, once again, we would have never met.
Never. Never.
Hey.
Good night, everyone.
Love y'all. Peace. Put these kids in the bed. What are y'all? Hey. I cut this thing off.